Welcome to Real Smart, the real estate podcast you've been waiting for. I'm Spencer Kallick, a real estate and land use attorney at Matkins. On this show, I sit down with some of the most dynamic and accomplished voices in real estate to explore trends shaping the industry and uncover what truly sets great leaders apart. Hey everyone, today's guest is Bill Tagliaferri, president at Big Outdoor, a national leader delivering high-impact digital signage across some of the most iconic cityscapes in the country. With a background in finance and entrepreneurship, Bill has helped build Big Outdoor into one of the fastest growing media platforms in the United States, with a portfolio that includes iconic signage in Times Square area, downtown LA, and the famous Sunset Strip in West Hollywood. Under his leadership, the company has redefined what out-of-home can be, and people experience the cities around them. So Bill, welcome to the show. Welcome to Real Smart.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is a special edition. We are on the road. We've taken this worldwide. Actually, no, we're in New York City. So Bill, for those people who don't know, talk to us a bit about what is Big Outdoor.
So Big Outdoor is a national outdoor advertising company we're headquartered down in Dallas. I run the New York office and LA as well. We are kind of the leader in the independent out-of-home space, have started about 15 years ago and continue to develop large format, digital, static, major assets around the country.
Amazing. So you guys have stuff here in New York. You have stuff in Dallas. You have stuff in amazing billboards in Los Angeles as well. Talk to me a bit about kind of your footprint, your reach, and some of your most iconic billboards.
Sure, absolutely. So we're currently in 12 markets around the country, but our biggest markets are New York, Dallas, and Los Angeles. That's where we focus a lot of our growth. A lot of our signs, we are anywhere from smaller street level signs in Santa Monica to large giant signs in downtown LA. We recently took over a project that's starting January 1st, 20,000 square foot sign right across from Crypto Arena. That's exciting.
Wow.
Developing some amazing assets with you and with your help on Sunset Boulevard. New York City, we have really amazing large format signage with dynamic copy that you're able to put up there. So it's been a fun growth pattern to get here.
Amazing. So let's be candid. When people hear billboard, sometimes they don't have the most positive reaction. Sure. What is your way? What is your kind of ethos for how to get beyond that? For how to show folks that signage is more than just a stick and a board with advertising, but it's something more than that?
Yeah, it's tough because even when I try to explain to my friends about who I am, I'm a billboard company, but we're not typically a billboard company. We're not the highway company that is a pole in the ground that's just steel and everything else. We're trying to create more landscapes on buildings and design something that's a little bit more exciting and pleasing and more dynamic overall. So when we approach these projects across the country and as our pipeline continues to grow, we're not just looking to build the next billboard, we're looking to build more of an experience and a larger sign that's going to really have an effect on the surrounding area, but also that brands are going to love to be on for long term.
Got it. So how did you get into this crazy business? Did you wake up, you came out of your mother's womb and decided, hey, I'm going to be a billboard guy?
Yeah. So it's funny, anyone you talk to in the out-of-home industry, I think they all just kind of find their way into this industry. So for me, I went to school for marketing. I had no idea what that meant, what I wanted to do. I worked 3 jobs during college, and I'm just trying to figure out my way as an entrepreneur and whatever I was doing. I worked in construction for Tishman right out of college, was down at ground zero for a little bit, just kind of finding my way there. I started a small little subcontracting company, just doing small odd and end things for people, figuring it out. I was a young kid, just didn't know what was happening. A friend of mine called me and he said that his son started a company in the non-traditional media space, a company called Encompass Media. They were doing advertising on coffee cups and pizza boxes and all these different kind of mediums. And
it's not in New York.
100%. We were selling them to the coffee carts in New York.
Of course.
So we actually would go and we would get brands to take Wachovia Bank, and the old banks would buy the cups and we would distribute them on the street. So that's kind of how I started. And in 2006. A job opened up for a real estate manager at Clear Channel to run the Westchester market. I've always been involved in real estate, love real estate, and kind of was enjoying this media kind of area of my life. Went, interviewed, became the Westchester real estate guy, immediately fell in love with the industry in terms of understanding zoning and codes and how to do things, negotiating leases and everything else. So I became a student of the code, kind of understanding all that. 2008, 2009 for the world was a tough couple of years real estate wise. So it was interesting to be on the Billboard side, trying to renegotiate leases and working with property owners during tough times. And then in 2010, I was fortunate enough to be introduced to Brad Berkeley, who you know pretty well, our founder.
Fortunate enough to be introduced.
Very fortunate, very fortunate. Just I did the best. And I met him and we just hit it off right away in a restaurant in New York.
And Brad Berkeley, for those who don't know, is the CEO of Big Outdoor.
Yes, yeah. And Brad asked me to come down to Dallas. I flew down to Dallas, met with him and Travis Hodges, who was employee number 1. Currently at the time, he was starting a company called Radiant Outdoor. He was changing the zoning downtown to allow for very large signs in Dallas. And he said, I'd like to start this and make this a national platform. Any interest in being my New York guy, my LA guy, and just kind of helped me run the country. And we sat down in a half hour and immediately said, this is something we want to do. So in 2011, joined Brad, joined Travis in Radiant, and kind of started running with it, trying to figure out where we were going. So at the time, we were developing small little signs in New York, and we did a small acquisition in LA, and we were trying to figure out our way. We didn't have a sales team. We had a sales rep company selling us at the time. We were so just focused on get more assets. What's funny about those signs are now that they come up for renewal, they're not as important to us anymore as they once were, but at the time they were super important to us, right? So
that was 14 years ago. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, 14 years ago. And
time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt about it. But it's been such a fun journey. But a couple years later, we did a small acquisition in Dallas for a company called Big Media. Along with that came a gentleman named Eric Niemeyer, who was this rock star, out of home guy. He was the old Apple guy. Became, it was just like an immediate thing. He was
Apple guy, meaning he used to sell ads.
Yeah, when I say the Apple guys, yeah, I should explain a little more. He was the Apple. He represented Apple on the media buying side from the agency side. So everyone knew Eric and this great name. And I remember being in Miami with Brad, and he said, that guy is going to be our next sales guy. He's going to help us run the company. And then we ended up forming a company. Eric was a founder of it, and we changed names to Big Outdoor. I still like Radiant better, but we went to Big Outdoor, and fast forward to almost 15 years later. And like I said, we're one of the largest independents in the country, and it's been an incredible ride. I think we have about 700 signs total. Each one of them uniquely has a story behind it, either a battle or a fight or a lease, a negotiation or anything. But I could tell you a story about every single sign that we have.
Nothing is simple in this world.
Zero.
Yeah.
Right, not at all. Yeah.
So Bill, you started your business, I mean, let's be clear, selling ads on coffee cups and pizza boxes. And now you're running this huge, frankly, nationwide business. How did those early days kind of lead you to where you are today?
Some days I don't know, but I think for me, it is every step of the way you learn something, right? So I've learned from selling cups to coffee carts to every step of the way I've learned something. And I think it's just continued to be that grind and that hustle to get here and figure that out and understand it and learn new ways. I think one thing that Brad's instilled in me and we've kind of worked on together is just never stop learning and never get comfortable. So it's always understanding a way to kind of, realize where the environment's going and pivot towards that, not just get stuck in one way. And I think that's why we've been so successful on the growth pattern of new markets, new signs, different ideas and everything else. It's not getting stuck in those past ways of just, well, zoning doesn't allow for it, so we can't do that. It's okay. Zoning doesn't allow for it. Let's figure it out. Let's go from there.
So for those of you who are not signage experts, maybe kind of high level, very broad question, but how do you get a sign up? How do you put up a sign in, Times Square? How do you put up a sign on the Sunset Strip in West Hollywood? How does that just happen?
Yeah, so it all comes down to zoning, and that's where it starts. So once you've identified a property, and we get calls all the time. I have this great property on the side of the BQE, and I'd love to put a sign up. That doesn't necessarily happen. So it really just starts with what's the address? Let's take the address and let's look at it. And let's analyze the zoning underneath. Is there anything that maybe we could do on an entitlement side that if we could redo the facade in downtown Philadelphia, they allow you if you put $10 million into redoing a facade, you could get a digital sign. So you have to kind of look at the address first, look at the underlying zoning, and from there, that's where you start the process of, okay, can we figure something out here? If it is a property like in Times Square, which you have the 100% right to do, it's basically, okay, now we know that we're zoned, we're good. Let's look at the overall kind of canvas of the property and start designing something that's integrated into the property, but also it doesn't look like an afterthought, a way of kind of putting it together. So, and then from there, it's, go to the design process. Sometimes we get an architect involved, work through that, get the landlord's approval, go through DOB process, get permits.
DOB?
Department of Buildings.
Thank you.
Get permits, and then we start with the installation company, procuring LED and everything else. So there's a long process, but it really just starts with the underlying zoning and can it be done? And if, to my point earlier, if it can't be done, can we figure out a way to get it done?
So we've partnered a lot on, dealing with zoning codes, amending zoning codes, allowing signs to get entitlements to actually go up. But should we be putting signs pretty much everywhere? Are there better locations? What kind of drives that decision making for you all?
It's always interesting for us, mostly commercial zones. Obviously, we're going to stay out of residential areas, communities and everything else. We're always looking for areas that are unique. Like when we had the opportunity in Santa Monica that doesn't have much out of home, trying to find a way to incorporate there through the kiosk program that we worked with the city of Santa Monica on. So there are a lot of factors that go into it in terms of, what's there. When you talk about Times Square that has 300 signs, does it need another one? But if it is, how do we differentiate ourselves from somebody else?
So dive into that more, right? People know Times Square. It's kind of awe-striking with all the signage that's there. Does Times Square need another sign? I mean, you guys, I know, have done some signs in Times Square. What's kind of differentiated you or made you unique in that space?
So if you talk to every property owner that owns a property in Times Square, that yes, it needs another sign, and it needs the biggest possible sign you could build.
Question. Let's go.
There is this kind of give and take on, point of diminishing return, how big of a sign can you build, everything else. But I think, with new technology and better technology that comes out on the LED side.
We're talking about 3D signage now?
3D signage, but even just,
What is 3D signage for folks who don't know?
Okay, so 3D signage is anamorphic content. It's, what you...
Anamorphic.
Anamorphic.
That. Wow.
Yeah, it's
anamorphic.
I don't think I can spell that, but we'll say. But I think we can, when you talk about anamorphic, a lot of your kids can see it on YouTube. It's the, the foot coming out and the kind of this shadow box image of display. It's really on a dimensional display where there's a lot more action and activity that's happening there. So a lot of signs in Times Square have been pivoting a little bit more to have a little more curvature or dimension to it to allow for this 3D anamorphic content, which is really cool and really fun. It's more of an experience. Brands are starting to really buy in. It used to be a lot more expensive to create the content. The price on that's coming down. So it's been fun to watch brands kind of take advantage of that and then own that moment and really use the signage that I love to build to get to that moment.
So is there a point of oversaturation where it's just too much, whether it's on the Sunset Strip or in Times Square?
Yes, absolutely.
What's that tipping point?
Times Square is at that tipping point. It's been at that tipping point for a while. Sunset's getting there as they continue to build more signs. So I think the tipping point, it's always supply and demand, right? So if the media and the brands are spending crazy like in 2022, it's a good time and we're moving along. When things tighten up like earlier this year with LA fires and tariffs and everything else, you see that little bit of a pullback. Now everyone starts dropping their rates and it kind of really oversaturates the market and kills that market or hurts the market. With entertainment brands not spending traditionally as much as they have in the past, you see that effect on Sunset Boulevard, and with more signs that come on, it just the budgets that come onto Sunset get smaller and smaller.
So we often hear things like this project doesn't pencil or there's oversaturation. At the same time, I know in other markets, whether it's multifamily or industrial, what have you, folks are currently right now entitling and developing so that when the economy does pick up again, they'll have the newest, shiniest, best product out there.
Yeah.
Are you all thinking about that? Are you all planning for the future in that way?
Yeah, we're always planning for the future in that way and looking towards that and trying to seek out opportunities in these areas that are maybe a little underserved now, but kind of looking at the future of that. So there are different ways we're doing that. Santa Monica was a big piece of that when we kind of went into a closed market, opened it up for media and kind of going on from there.
So talk about how you go into a highly regulated environment where oftentimes signage is not allowed. What do you do in working with municipalities? How do you work with them, convince them, help them think creatively about what's possible and what's in it for the cities?
Yeah, so the crazy part is municipalities have always been, no to billboards all the time, right? Absolutely not. Stay out of this is not for us. Go do it on the highway or go somewhere else. I think you've seen, at least over the last 7 or 8 years, a change and a shift in that, where they're seeing the benefits to the community, also the benefits monetarily of how they're going to make money and revenue off of these signs.
Because there's a revenue share component.
There's a revenue share component that goes back to the city, that goes back to some of these programs. What's nice now is we have a lot of examples of it. So in Denver, the theater district started downtown. They were able to figure out a way to allow for some signs to come. We weren't a part of this one, but just as an example, as a precedent for the future. And that money has gone back into the community for more arts programs and everything else. Atlanta did it. Sunset did it. So you're starting to see a lot of people kind of understand it, and more of these precedents, and I'm seeing the value in it, and maybe not the negativity of what a LED is going to do. I think as long as they put the guardrails in and make sure that they're not putting 100 signs into a small little area, and maybe there's a lot more of a design and other aspect to it, it's proven to be pretty financially good for cities, as well as beneficial to the community for some of these smaller businesses.
Can you give us some examples? You talked a bit about Santa Monica, West Hollywood. What do these projects mean, besides just dollars? What kind of, maybe give us an example of a project you've worked on and kind of how there's been that public benefit?
Yeah, so the best one I think we could talk about is one we worked on together, 8501 Sunset. So it's a property that has been vacant for almost 4 decades. It's had a regular static billboard on the top that's been great, and Showtime's had it for years. It's been a good sign for them. But we, through the Sunset Arts program, we submitted a design that they liked, and we had some iterations of it and worked with them, and ultimately came up with a great design for the sign to change it to a digital sign, both-sided, which is actually up and running today. But even more importantly, on the community benefit side, the vacant space downstairs, we're completely transitioning and making and rebuilding, which has been a fun process. And in doing so, we're putting in what we're calling the Sunset Success Lab, Sun Cienega Success Lab, and that is going to be
Sun Cienega Success Lab.
Yeah, this is Albin. Albin thankfully put that together for us. But yeah, so we're kind of figuring it out. But it's going to be an incubator space for West Hollywood small businesses, entrepreneurs, to use a co-working space and have it for $1 a month for free, basically free space to come in, collaborate. We're going to have some Brad's going to work with them and put together some kind of programs to help them. But this community benefit we're most excited about, because not only is the financial aspect of it to the city, but also now we're going to be able to really make an impact on some small businesses and people in the community as well. It's going to change out every year, so you get a 1-year lease. We'll have 4 to 5 businesses in there, and then every year we're going to change this out and go from there.
I love that story, because people think about, again, billboards sometimes not as positively, oh gosh, you're working on a billboard. But here's a great story where billboards actually led to growing small businesses, especially in this kind of challenging economic times for small businesses that, let's be honest, are not having the best go of it. You all are really taking the lead in doing more than just putting up signage, but allowing that to be a catalyst for growth in the community.
Yeah, and what's incredible about this property is if this program doesn't happen, that sign will sit vacant, that property will sit vacant for the next 40 years, right?
If not longer.
If not longer, who knows? But it's been an eyesore on the Sunset Strip. We're really turning it into this beautiful structure, and we're very excited about this.
I love it. So talk to me about Santa Monica. I know you've got a big investment in Santa Monica. Not a secret that the city of Santa Monica, as beautiful and amazing as it is, has struggled recently. There's a fiscal emergency right now. What are you all doing in Santa Monica, and how has that potentially been a catalyst for the community?
Yeah, so back in just two or 3 years ago, we won an RFP for a public-private partnership with the city of Santa Monica to allow some new interactive wayfinding kiosks on the streets of Santa Monica. It wasn't easy to get them up and running. It took a little while from getting power to going through the whole city council process.
I've done a couple phone calls.
Yeah, a couple. But for us, it's been a tremendous kind of program to work on with the city, hand in hand with them, to kind of work on locations together. We put in 25 unique locations, one on the actual pier of Santa Monica, which is fun. Cool. And they're wayfinding, but it also has been a great benefit. I mentioned a gentleman named Albin before. We brought in an ambassador for this program. Albin is like entrenched in the community. He goes to the Chamber of Commerce meetings. He's working with the community to make sure that all local businesses have a voice on these screens. They have a way of kind of showing where their location is. So it's been a great kind of story for us to work with the city and kind of bring it all together.
So talk to me a bit about what are some of the hardest real estate and city-related challenges that you've had to navigate, and what did you learn from those?
There's always challenges with every one of these signs, as we talked about before. I think when we talk about city challenges. It's when you go through with the municipalities, you come up with an idea, you work through it.
They love it from the beginning.
Yeah, right. They love the idea of the money, and then we have to figure out how to get there. But I think for us, the challenges with them is just kind of the time and the different levels of approvals that we have to go through, and the cost factor that comes along with that.
Put some meat on those bones, right? Like you submit an application, hey, I want to put a billboard up here. Is this a couple weeks, a couple months, a couple years? Is this $1? Is this tens of millions of dollars? What's involved?
Yeah, so when you talk about an 8501, the Sunset project, we had, that was a 6-year project. By the time we put an application in, worked through the process, got a design that was on board, got the city planning and commissioners and council members, everyone signed off on it. That took a long time. And just to get to the point of approval, it was over $1 million, right? So it takes a long time to get there. But we were so invested in it, and we definitely had a lot of buy-in on what was going on there. And then beyond that, to build it, talking about a lot more money. So just to get to the point of getting an application approved, it takes a lot. And, thankfully we have great partners, and yourself and Office Entitled, Ben, and some of those people that kind of stay with us every step of the way to get us there. On the private partnership side, I give an example of a sign that we built on 42nd and 8th, which is by far my favorite sign. It's like my baby, my third child.
We're not that far away right now.
Yeah, we can walk over if you want.
Yeah. Hopefully there'll be some B-roll in the background of that sign right now as we're talking.
So that sign, in 2015, 10 years ago, we met with the property owner that owned the property, and it wasn't zoned for signage. It's in a unique spot where across the street is Times Square zoning. Right across, just south of it, is Port Authority zoning. So every corner is allowed for signage except for his property. So very influential and amazing real estate developer in New York says to us, well, let's go change the zoning. And, this was something that just doesn't happen. So
Bill just snaps his fingers and all of a sudden it's done.
Well, this for me was my first learning experience of how to actually do this. So we go through the process of a text amendment, and thankfully, we were successful through our city council meetings, and we had to get all the community boards on board. And then so you get through the whole step of entitlement, which is great, and we're all excited, high-fiving. Then you get into lease negotiation, which didn't go over too well, and we had a little bit of an impasse through that, which was difficult. We got through that, so lease negotiation's over, which took us 3 years to get entitlement. You'd think we'd have a lease done by then, but again, we're learning as we go. Then we get to the building itself, and it is not engineered to accept this very large rooftop sign, so we have to go rebuild the entire structure of the building underneath to make sure that it was there. Wow. It's on top of a subway, so there's a lot more there. We get through that hurdle, we build the sign, there's not enough power. So we get power, and now we finally build the sign. It's lit up December 5th of 2019. Excited again, high-fiving. It's running at 75% power. We have enough to get us there. We actually started out running it with a generator in the middle of 8th Avenue, which is interesting. And then
you're like feeding the oil.
We had a truck that was the largest truck you could possibly see, blocking the bike lane. That didn't go over too well.
Bill Tagliaferri, full service real estate development.
This was insane. And then, of course, March, we end up getting Con Ed's coming out. They have their whole plan going, and then the world shuts down. So it's an interesting time, but ultimately, August that year, we ended up putting in power and everything was fine. But yeah, I think for the reason why I bring up this story is every step of the way we got to know, right? It's not zoned for it. We have a lease issue. You can't build this because the building's too big. You don't have enough power, but every step of the way. So it's just like we stuck to it, and now it's by far my proudest sign I've ever built, and I love everything about that corner and what we've done there. And since we've actually bought the real estate on top for the roof for perpetuity. So now we actually own a piece of real estate in New York City with my favorite sign that I've ever built. So it's been a fun story to get there.
Amazing. Yeah. I love it. One of the things that strikes me is that you all do things a little differently. And look, I'm very lucky. I have a number of signage projects, a number of signage clients. You guys have kind of a unique spin on the way you do things. What is the Big Outdoor secret sauce, if you will, or what is the Big Outdoor kind of competitive advantage, you'd say?
Yeah, so competitive advantage, when we look at kind of our business, we're in a fortunate spot now that we don't have to go after every sign that we've, in the past, it was like, we got to get that. So we've been a lot more selective about projects that we're passionate about partners and real estate developers that we want to work with and that want to work with us and how we can collaborate. So I think when we take an approach on a project, we're always taking it from, we talk to brands a lot, and we talk to our ad agency partners to make sure understand what they're buying, what they're seeing, what they want to see, and how that works. So I think there's a lot of collaboration at our company, from sales to our project management and LED procurement team, to kind of just understand what's going on. So I think when we're looking at this, we're working with a lot of different aspects, from sales to operations to our outside architect, on what's going to work and what's going to make something unique to ultimately drive the most revenue to the property.
What is the future of signage, right? There's so many changes in technology, AI, 3D. I'm sure there are things that I don't even know about right now. What does it look like?
If you find out, let me know.
That's why I'm asking you. You're the expert. You're the real smart guy.
At least for right now, the future is digital signage, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this dimensional 3D anamorphic signage kind of being built, or signage that's built for anamorphic content. I think AI, we're still trying to figure out as far as how that integration's happening. We're happy to see a lot of the AI brands kind of advertising and promoting and doing that. So I think as far as like when we look out in the future, I can't tell you 10 years from now. I know 2 years from now, we're definitely thinking about how we're going to be able to build signs that are good for the present, but also kind of future-proofed as well. And what that means, I think we're trying to learn and figure out on a daily basis as far as where we're going with it. But I really do think dimensional signs, full motion advertising signs, or be able to have the ability to do that, is going to be very helpful. So I think that's what we're looking at right now.
So we've talked a lot about real estate and development, but it's also, there's another side of your business. It's not like you just flip the switch and all of a sudden you've got the sign showing advertising. Yeah. Talk about the advertising side of the business and how that all works.
Yeah. So we have, over the years, we've built up a pretty substantial sales team across the country.
How many folks work total Big Outdoor, roughly?
It's so funny. We had this conversation the other day. A little over 40.
40, okay.
A little over 40. It's like 41, 42, something like that. We're trying to nail that down. But yeah, like right around that. But on the sales side, I would say 15 salespeople. And the majority, and they're all run by our rock star, Ian Rappaport, who's our chief revenue officer. He kind of oversees that, runs that team along with Kylie out in the West Coast. And we have a lot of just incredible people that have either come from the agency world or have come from sales. But the majority of our selling happens through these ad agencies, these out-of-home ad agencies that specialize in media and doing that and kind of represent the industry overall. We do have a lot of conversations with the agency planning teams to make sure that we're working with them and understand what they want to do. So I would say 95% of our business probably comes through these ad agencies, while we're trying to work directly with brands that aren't represented by agencies, to find ways of showing them how to do it and work with them. And companies like Netflix and Apple, and they continue to be big in the industry. So it's fun to watch them do stuff and then kind of work with us and kind of hear where they're taking it going into next year, what their kind of initiatives are, how they want to promote new products and promote new brands and shows and everything else.
Love it. In addition to working on all these different projects, you're also running a company, right? You run the show and you got, like you just said, 41 people. Talk a little bit about what it's like in this current world running a billboard company, and what's your approach to leadership?
What my approach to leadership when I'm looking at this is, I want to make sure that it's a collaborative effort between all of our departments, our people, and everyone kind of has a say. So when I talk about our team, I'm very proud of the team that we built and everyone that we have with us. I include them all in decisions. So if we're talking about LED and what's going to be the right manufacturer, I call our operations team and say, tell me who's right for this particular sign because the sun's hitting it from a certain angle, and what's the one we want to go with. We have a collaborative effort and kind of all decide together. On the sales side, when we're pitching a client, what's the right approach? How can we package some assets and put it together? So I work closely with Ian and the sales team to do that. So I think leadership approach outside of just trying to lead by example is always, let's get everyone together and figure this out together, because although I feel like I'm the expert on the real estate side, there are things that I'm not the expert on, and I'm trying to always constantly bring in the right people. I'm smart enough on certain areas, but I know where I've my downfalls. So I want to make sure that when we're making decisions, we're doing it together with everyone's kind of input.
So if there was a young person out there or someone kind of looking to make a change in their life, would you tell them to go into the out-of-home industry?
It's a good question because I
That was
actually,
a very long sigh, by the way.
yeah, it's tough. I think, listen, I love the industry. I love everything about the industry. I always want people to try something else before they kind of come to me and do that. So my nephew recently kind of interned for me over the summer, which was great. And I wanted to show him.
Hard time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he was cold calling. He was doing everything. But
Absolutely.
I want everyone to kind of understand the kind of the world outside. So I gave him every aspect for, what the approach and everything else. So I think, out of home is a great place for many people. There are certain people that just strive on the sales side. I personally have just gravitated to the real estate side with, I think is, really what grows companies and how we're going to kind of continue to go. So the answer is yes. I just think, you have to find your way within the industry for which portion you want to be a part of. Do you want to be on the sales side, real estate side, operation side, whatever it may be. So it's funny when we talk about the industry itself, there's so many different layers to the inside this company and so many different expertise. So I think, yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that we're constantly on the phone, texting, calling, emailing, what have you. You're seemingly always working. When you're not working, what keeps you busy? What keeps you excited?
You know firsthand, I'm on the baseball fields all the time. So I'm a coach. I love coaching.
You're not talking about the Yankees, are you?
No, unfortunately not. But I am a Dodger fan because I don't want to see the Blue Jays.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, good job.
But yeah, so I'm very passionate about my two sons and my wife, and we're always together on the weekends on the baseball fields or going to Yankee games, playing baseball, doing something. So outside of work, my favorite thing to do is hang out with my family, whether it's vacation or anything like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, look, this has been a phenomenal time chatting with you. Again, our first on the road New York edition of Real Smart.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you, Bill, coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Absolutely. This is good. Thank you.
The content of this podcast is for the general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship between you, the host, guest, or Alan Matkins. You should not act or rely on any information discussed without first consulting a qualified attorney regarding your specific situation. Any opinions expressed are those of the individual speaking and do not necessarily reflect the views of Alan Matkins or its clients.